Hi everyone, welcome to a new session where we continue developing a .NET library for the .NET community, a test-driven, open source, standardized library for integrating with OpenAI. And super excited here. We're getting really closer and closer to bringing out there we're almost, close to get a client out the door, a completion client. So once we're done with the exceptions today, we should be able to kind of move forward from there and start, kind of developing the integrations and the acceptance. It'll show you really the whole end to end and maybe publish an alpha release for the completion part and just have people try it and test it and all that. And as usual, my amazing pair here, Mr. Brian Parker. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good, good. And I'm also joined here by Elbic. How are you doing, brother?
I'm good, thank you. Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Hey, Elwick, how are you, man?
Hi, Brian.
Okay, so just before we get started, I wanted to kind of point out, again, I appreciate the community's contribution and all that. And someone, left us a comment in one of our previous videos. Let's just, go here real quick. Um, we know now that Microsoft is publishing also a a version of OpenAI, right? So they have their own kind of release and all that. And Tim asked me an interesting question here. Tim does tech. He said, question, I have got access. I don't know if you guys can see this one. It's really, yeah, there you go. I've got access to Azure OpenAI service via work and been having a play. I thought that the models would map from OpenAI to the Azure implementation, but they are different. For instance, the completion request does not have the model, user or suffix properties, and the response does not have the usage property. In the implementation so far, we have an iCompletion service foundation service, which works with OpenAI. How would we implement the Azure versions? Would we have a completely new foundation service? iCompletion Azure service as a request response different. I thought initially we could just have two implementations of a broker, but I don't think that'll work given the models are different. It's almost like, we have a solution for this, but I just wanted to see the community first. What do you guys think? Brian, Elvic, anyone watching? Do we have a solution for this problem? Multiple providers, and we want to switch on the providers without changing the final code? Does that ring a bell at all?
No, not at all.
No, no, not at all.
Well, kind of, isn't it the point of the brokers?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there is a point of the brokers, but also I want to remind the community there is a research that's going on, something that we call SPAL, Standardized Provider Abstraction Libraries. So what would happen here, Tim, is that we are building this OpenAI, OpenAI.net. So that's our library. That's a provider that's interfacing with OpenAI right here, right? And then at some point in time, I hope, so this is OpenAI right here. And then, you also now have Azure setting up in here with Azure Cognitive Services. And in front of Azure, maybe you have Azure Cognitive Services.net. I don't know if they have a library yet or not. I didn't check all the way. Elbic, you could probably dig into that and tell me if they do. But what the community have been researching is something called SPAL, which is Standardized Provider Abstraction, this guy here. And what SPAL is, it says, hey, each and every one of these libraries need to implement the contract of SPAL. And then the broker that will be using SPAL at the end, will not need to change too much code in terms of exceptions or implementations and all that, because this SPAL implementation is the one that you're actually using to communicate with this service. We've been researching this for a couple of months now. It's not super new. You could see something like that in the Entity Framework implementation, but we're taking it to the next level while applying our principles and guidelines and all that. If you're still interested in this concept, there's two places I would point you to go read, about SPAL. Number one, the standard itself. If you go into the brokers chapter, we added in the brokers chapter, first of all, here's the link to the standard if you never heard of it. So here's the link to the engineering standard right here. And then if you look at the brokers section, I added a little section in there called standardized provider abstraction libraries. And what this does is that it basically abstracts away your providers from your consumers. So the reason for that is, so when you want to switch between Azure and OpenAI, or in another scenario, you want to switch between the Entity Framework and Dapper, or you want to switch between Oracle and something else, you don't have to worry about that, because you're only just changing a SPAL implementation, not using the actual final library of that provider, which means no code changes at all on your side. Okay, so that's just a short blurb of where we're going, what I'm planning to do. If Azure doesn't create a library, a .NET library, I'd be surprised if they're not already in the works for something like that. But if they don't, I know a great community that is willing to sit down and build any library in the world because, they know what the value of writing properly engineered systems and all that. And, the people that are watching, you're starting to see the contrast between standardized systems and non-standardized systems. Where's your API? What's your exceptions? Where's your documentation? You see how we're literally molding and bending chaos into order and standardization, by enforcing these rules at the API level, right? So we'll see how that one goes. It's gonna be a fun trip. So okay, on our list here, we stopped last time we were, talking about, making sure that we are aware of all the exceptions that OpenAI API is producing. What do you got there, Brian? You're the one that has the answers.
Well, I didn't
I'll
get
just sit
many
here
here.
and eat dates and drink tea and listen to you. How about that? Go ahead.
No worries, my friend. So I'm going to share my screen. Just make sure I got the right one. So I had a lot of trouble finding any sort of documentation of the error numbers and stuff that they produced. And
No surprise there.
yeah,
Go ahead.
Rami left a link, and I went looking around, and I couldn't actually find anything that was sort of concrete, other than pulling the code apart itself. And so I end up, as we sort of suggested back in the previous video, is we should just ask OpenAI itself. And so I asked OpenAI, and this is the response it gave me. So quite interesting.
Okay, so we have the 400 bad request unauthorized, forbidden, not found, too many requests. By the way, just so you guys know, RESTful Sense distinguishes between 404 URL not found and 404 entity not found because that's the the specification for RESTful API communications doesn't give you anything. It just says 404 is not found. Not found what? The URL? The entity, because the difference between these two is like heaven and earth. The URL not found, that's a catastrophic, that means that the entire system is down. You're not able to communicate. You have bad communication or the API is completely unavailable, whatever is in there, right? So that's one part. But entity not found, oh, that's just a one user thing. It's just a one person thing, right? So just for the awareness between the difference between the two. Okay, so they have, not found the resource you're trying to access, so that's entity not found. Got it. And then 429 too many requests, and then 500 internal server error. Well, that's classic, right? Okay. In that case, what we're gonna be doing then, I'm gonna be writing a test, that kind of throws a bad request exception, and we need to map that onto an invalid completion exception, and then we're going to wrap it into completion validation exception. Sounds like a plan? Let's start there. So I will write the failing test, and then we'll take it from there. Let's share the screen here. I'm going to take your screen, Brian. There we go. How are you doing, El Big Bye?
I'm good, thank you.
Hey, Shirkson. Shirkson, 9003.
Did you have a chance to look at the PRs?
For the OpenAI.net?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's actually a great thing. Let's go there first before we start building on top of. Well, I mean, at some point we need to do a merge with main, but let's go there and see what's happening. So this is git GitHub OpenAI.net. Oh boy, there's like 4 of them. Great. So configs update all libraries. Nice. So people are already kind of taking care of. Um, I appreciate that. This is fantastic. Okay, so this is good. Did you want to close there, or is this still on hold, or is this good to go?
I don't know. I'm just asking you. But do we need RESTful sense to be updated here as well?
We probably should. Brian Parker
Yeah.
found something in RESTful. Brian Parker found something, and then Christo told me that yeah, he's right, and we need a new version. And I know that he released another version after I announced the other one. I think the latest version, I think it should be 2.11. Maybe the PR is still pending on RESTful sense. Let's see, RESTful sense and pull request. Yeah, medium fix support application. That's Brian. And then redundant code removed. When did that happen? I don't know about that, but this one here, it looks like there's still a discussion going on there. So yeah, the
Yep,
latest is 210 until that discussion is done. So does Horshid here, does he have 210 of
Mm,
RESTful sense?
no, he didn't touch. I guess he only touched tests projects.
Yeah, that's okay. You know, if he
All right.
wants to update the others, then, and
All
I'm
right.
pretty sure we have 210. We have to. Otherwise, the code wouldn't work at all.
that's right. 210 included the changes we needed for
Oh, all right.
application JSON. Yeah.
Nice. And then run code cleanup entire build. Let's see here. This is this is this is probably Cake. Yeah, that's Cake. Okay, Cake is a guy that I'm also kind of mentoring and stuff like that. This is still not incomplete though, because system should always stay on top. Can you review this and also make sure that he leaves the proper naming convention? So this naming should be code rub, right? And then you do the rest of that. And of course, for the people that are wondering, how do I know the prefix? Thanks to Christo, there's the standard team which has all these rules. If you go to the standard team, you will find in here there are practices and rules, and here's all the prefixes. Christo went and documented all of them from the ground up. So you'll see all the way from infrastructure, all the way down to code rub and medium fix and all that. These are the prefixes that we put in our pull request so we know what we're actually working on.
Thank
Okay,
you, Chris. Thank you, Christo. This is what the bit I struggle with.
he's the man. Christo's the man, I'm telling you. You know, he's the man. And here's a link to the standard team. These are the practices and there's more to it than that. Like there's a lot more. We talk about leadership. We talk about, how a team should operate and all that good stuff. So, this is all good. Okay. All right. So going back to these fixes, and then the next pull request is what? It's code drop change model prompt property to prompts. Now, the question is, how did you do that? Did he branch off of the branch? Because we didn't merge yet, did we?
It looks like he branched off the branch, if that's the one I looked at earlier.
He did branch off the branch. Okay, we'll wait on this until we're complete then.
Hmm.
Is that okay? Does that work? Or do we just pull and see if this was happening yesterday, we could merge this one now and we could just pull main onto our own branch. Would that work? I think that would work
He's
then.
he's merging against our branch, the one we are working now. So
Right. And
does it
and also
matter?
this guy should also be prompts, even the external.
Mm-hmm.
So this so for those of you who are not familiar with this feature, I can actually go like this and propose the entire change like that and just say prompts. And when I say add single comment, it will show you, oh, it didn't do it. Why? Ah, stupid. Let's see. Is it a suggestion? Preview? Yeah, there you go. So you can, in GitHub, you can actually do a trick like this where you go and say, hey, are you okay with it? Add changes directly. But I can't do that because he needs to change also on the dynamic properties side, right? So take a look at these changes. I think they're good for the most part. I think there's just a couple of other things that you need to do. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
This is great. This is great. And this is add static.
Again, this was done on the branch.
Yeah, this is also done on the branch. Good. That's amazing. Okay, this one is good, I think. So how does that work? So now if I just pull latest on my branch, it'll just show up. That's crazy.
They should.
Let's take a look. Yeah, I appreciate the Uzbek community and Elbic, the people that you mentor all the time, and it's really good. Thank you guys.
Yeah,
Coding
thanks,
is fun
guys.
with people, Brian, don't you think? It's a lot of
It
fun.
is.
Yeah. So if I go up in here, these should be static. Ah, there it is. Nice. Nice.
Beautiful.
Nice. So if I look up in here, oh, I did not know you could do that. That's fantastic. There he is. Hosan, am I saying the name right? Hosan? Okay.
Yes.
All right, cool. Fantastic. And when the other one is ready, we should be able to do that. Okay, let's go to the test now. So back to this. We have the validations. We're done with the validations. This is all good. I'm gonna create a thing here called theory data. Okay.
Okay. Just sorry. Are we really done with the validations? Because we come across that other issue where we had to address something in RESTful sense with the nullable properties.
I think we are done with the validations. I think. I like to think so. We only validated the things that are required and that has to be there, which is prompt and model.
Mm-hmm.
And for now, the other properties have default values, but I'm still thinking about that because I'm not going to leave it this way, you
Yep.
know. But other than that, I don't think there's anything else that we need to validate unless you can think of something off the top.
No, I was just wondering how we're going to handle that, the nullable properties. That's all.
What is this guy suggesting, by the way? Ooh, you could do that. Well, how is that any better than this? Blah. Anyway, okay, so
It's supposed to be more efficient.
right. So here's the deal. We need to throw unauthorized exception, unauthorized completion exception when we get a 403 or 401, right? So let's start writing that. So here's a test. And this test will say exceptions prompt. And I'm just going to write a test from scratch. Let's throw all that away. So for the people watching, if you do control MO, that collapses the world for you and you just take all that out. Okay. So it's fact public async task should throw dependency critical. Well, we're not logging, so it's just dependency exception on prompt if unauthorized async. So here's a given, here's a when, here's a then, and here's the exception that we're talking about. So I'm just gonna create a dummy completion because I really don't care, right? So here's a random, this completion, random completion, or some completion. When we say something, it basically means that it's just a filler. We don't care. We actually don't care what's in there because it doesn't matter, like the change of that value of the input value, no matter what the change is, it's not going to change the outcome. We will always throw that exception. And you will see very shortly that I really say it is any, it doesn't matter. So here's create random completion. Okay. And then I want to go up in here and say, here's my var unauthorized exception. And this here is HTTP response unauthorized exception. Where is this coming from? That's the beauty of RESTful sense, right? RESTful sense is telling you, here is the error that I'm going to throw at you, when the API is responding with that code. I see a lot of engineers, they have to do this a lot. HTTP code, and then, you know, if it's unauthorized, equal, whatever, 403, whatever, and then they do that. You don't have to do any of that if you're using RESTful Sense. It makes things a lot easier for you, right? And then in here, I'm gonna go and say unauthorized completion exception. I'm telling you, this thing is listening to me. So unauthorized completion exception, and we don't have that error yet. And then I'm going to throw this unauthorized exception in here. That's one. And then expected completion dependency exception. So this is not a validation exception anymore, right? This is a dependency exception. The dependency is telling you, hey, you're not able to enter, you're not able to communicate. Okay, so we don't have any of these exceptions yet, but before I do that, let's just take a quick question here. Sergio says, when you use array empty student, the compiler allocates the memory once. Everywhere you use the same empty, it points to the same reference, like a singleton. It's why it's more efficient. Okay, let's use it then. I did not know that. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. So let's go here. Let's do this. It's also the only place, I think, where we're using this. So thank you, Sergio. I like it. Okay. Let's go back here. Control minus will get you back here. And then we need a bunch of exceptions in here. So I'm going to go here and say unauthorized completion exception. And then unauthorized completion exception will inherit from exception, which is this library that, you know, allows us to do a lot of fun things with it. And then here's exception, inner exception, right? And we're going to go and say message unauthorized completion request. Fix errors and try again. So this is a dependency issue,
Capital F.
right? What is it, Brian?
Capital. You missed an capital F should be on fix, shouldn't it?
Oh yeah, that's right. Thanks. Control KE will clean up the world for you, and then if you do control period, it will pull in the copyrights for you. Hey, Florian. Okay. Elbeck, what happened? Did you move to Dubai? What's happening with your internet? Huh? You're on mute.
I don't know what's happening with my internet these days. I don't know. And I changed my laptop right now. So
Okay. Cool. Completion dependency exception. This is what this maps up to. And, you know, we're going to go here and say ctor constructor. And here's exception, inner exception. And then we're going to go and say message, completion, dependency, error, occurred, contact support. Right, and that's our inner exception here. Okay, so back to this, Control KE, this is all cleaned up. Control minus will take me back to where I was in terms of testing. And then this guy here needs to sit right there, like this. Let's see why this guy's complaining. It's saying cannot use local variable unauthorized before it is declared. What?
It's internal.
Yeah, no. It was naming it wrong.
Okay.
Is unauthorized with a capital or a lowercase? Unauthorized. Is unauthorized one word? Let's see. Unauthorized. Yeah, it's one word. No, we're good. It's one word. Now we need to pretend that this exception actually happened. So I go find my mock setup, right? And here's my broker, right? And broker dot post completion request, right? And in here, I'm basically saying it doesn't matter what this request may be because I don't care. So I'm going to go here and say it is any external completion request. We don't care. It doesn't matter, right? And the outcome of this is that it's going to throw asynchronously what the unauthorized completion the unauthorized completion. No, the HTTP response. Oh, why did it name it like that? That's why. I was confused, dude. Like, what's going on here? There it is. Let's just put that in here. So this is us pretending that when we're calling the API, that the API is going to throw an unauthorized exception. And that's the first potential error that you can get. Okay? Now, what are we going to do about that? I'm going to go here and say value task completion. There you go. And then underneath, and then underneath that, I'm going to go and say completion dependency exception expected actual completion dependency exception. I have the spell checker enabled just in case I don't know what's going on. And there you go. It wrote the rest of the code for me. And then actual completion should be equivalent to expected. It was so awkward, dude. You know, that, like imagine being in a interview, you know, a coding interview, and it's just writing the code for you. You know, that's
Mm.
just weird, you know. Anyway, let's verify that the mock has been called
Yep,
once.
I'm going to order a new keyboard and it's going to just have a tab key and an enter key.
You know what? That would be a perfect meme. I swear to God. You know, programming. I'm gonna make that meme after this session. You know, coding my keyboard before ChatGPT, my keyboard after ChatGPT. Okay. Um. Hi, Rosie Mor. How do I say the name? Elbic, you tell me. Post.
Resumerat.
Hi, Rosie Murat. It is any completion, sorry, external completion request. We just want to make sure that this has been called once. Why do we care about it being called once? Because I want to know that the exception actually was generated from that call and nothing else. And then the last thing here is just the mock. So I'm going to go here and say, here's my mock. Verify no other call. Okay. So this here is just a test that basically verifies that we will be taking that exception that's coming from the API, mapping it into a local exception, which is unauthorized completion exception. And then, you know, we wrap it into a completion dependency exception. Someone might ask me, be like, well, Hassan, you know, why don't you just throw an unauthorized request exception? Because sometimes you might have access to some APIs, but not the others, based on your tier, based on your permissions, based on whatever is going on there. That's expected, right? So technically, this guy should fail. Ryan, it's gonna be your turn. Are you ready? Let's go. All right, here's a failing test. And this failing test basically says, oh, that's a different error. It says the object was not registered in the randomizer. Did we not? There you go. So I'm gonna go here and say var filler. See, you gotta make sure that you're actually doing the right things, right? So on type object, ignore it, and then return the filler. You gotta make sure that you're giving your pair, the person you're working with, a true error, not just any error, a true error.
Yeah, I only want to be fixing one thing, not unknown
Exactly.
things. Yeah.
See, this now is a completely different error. What does the error here say? It says, I expected you to give me a completion dependency exception, but what I received is HTTP response unauthorized exception. That means that no one really, you know, handled this properly. Hi, Said. And then Fikri says, if Visual Studio for Mac as kind as Visual Studio for Windows like this, lots of catch up to do. That's true. It did start years after, so I'm pretty sure they're gonna try to catch up. You know, I think Visual Studio for Mac is neat. It's all right. Okay, is it production ready? I don't know, but is it nice for people who are used to Visual Studio on Windows? Oh yeah, big time. All right, Parker, you're it. Let fly. There's a fail. We're almost there, brother. We're almost there. I feel like this session is done. We wrap up all the exceptions. I'm not leaving here today until we wrap up all the exceptions, including the
Mm-hmm.
service exceptions. And then next session, we just build the client And then the session after that, we publish an alpha. How cool is that? Okay, Parker is in. Parker entered the chat. I really enjoy seeing Elbic explain in detail the validation yesterday. Yeah, he's really cool. I appreciate Elbic too. Okay.
So we need to go to our services. I really don't like this big screen.
It's a pain. It's a pain, but you have to kind of make sure that people can see it on all kinds of different devices.
So I just pressed F12 on that to go over to that method. We need to build the catch in here.
Yep, that's all it takes.
Oops, I'm going to put that there. And so what are we catching?
We're
catching
catching HTTP response unauthorized exception.
Whoops. Come on.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It didn't give it to me. Damn.
It's not collaborating. Not collaborating.
And we call the new one. What do we call the new one?
So we're gonna localize it first. So it's gonna be unauthorized completion exception. So Elbig, how many software engineers are in Uzbekistan?
It's growing massively.
It's a lot of people, right?
A lot.
That's really cool.
How's that look? Nope.
That just looks. You need the var on line 34.
var?
And then a var, yeah, because the right side is clear, right?
Yeah,
You know,
I get you.
and then if you put unauthorized completion at the same line, I think we should be okay. No, the other one. Sorry, Brian. Yep. Run the test. That should do it.
As usual, I'm running it on another screen.
Here we go. Fantastic. Fantastic. It's failing. So I might have missed something. Let's see what happened there. So it's saying I expected you to complete. Oh, what exception did you throw? Did you throw dependency or validation?
I threw a validation. It should have been
Yeah.
dependency. Yeah. I'm lost. Where's my screen?
You have this in front of you. Yeah, go on.
Yeah.
Hi, Asad Reza.
That's the one we needed.
You're gonna be getting comments from Facebook, Twitch, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. I don't know of any other, broadcasting service that is popular enough. See what happens? You teach me something, and the next day I'm gonna just fan out. It's gonna be all over the place. Why not? It's great. The
Yeah, we
beautiful
are
thing,
everywhere.
the thing that I didn't know about LinkedIn, they do their streaming really cool. If you get into my profile, you'll see the streaming in the banner area where I put my picture. I didn't know that they did that. That's pretty sweet. Go check it out. Go to my LinkedIn profile, see what it does.
I'm looking at it.
Yep.
Pushed.
Fantastic. Well, you owe me a failing test, right? So the next one that we want to do is when it gives us HTTP response. So pretty much a test similar to the one that I just created, but when it gives you HTTP response not found exception, we need to turn it into not found completion exception and still throw it as a dependency validation exception.
Not found. What'd you say? Not found.
So should throw dependency validation exception. So take away not found. So it should throw dependency validation exception. If completion if completion not found async. And I expect something like that to happen if the model is not found or something like that. But you have to call it dependency validation because that's a problem, that's a user fault, right? So should throw dependency validation there. So in the test name, Brian,
Yeah.
should throw dependency validation.
Yeah.
Except there you go. Yeah.
Yep.
Which means you need two new models. One that's called completion dependency validation exception, and one that's called not found completion exception.
Okay,
dependency validation. But at this level, it's not this one that's going to have that. Okay. So let's just start from the top. Instead of HTTP response unauthorized exception on line 66, this should be HTTP response not found exception.
Oh.
Okay, which means that, yeah. Cool. And that guy exists because it's coming from RESTful sense. Now, the localization of this would be not found completion exception. Okay, and we need a class that corresponds to that, right? Cool.
Yep.
And then later on, we need expected completion dependency validation exception because that's their API validating that for us, right?
So expected completion dependency exception?
Dependency validation exception. Okay, and the same thing for the model as well.
Yeah.
Okay, and what we're going to pass inside that guy, the not found complete. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, let's create these models and see how far this goes. Nice. I think it needs the class, not the.
Sorry.
The class for exception, not the namespace.
Yeah.
Instead of exceptions, it should be exception.
Yeah. Damn it. I'm getting nervous again. You shouldn't do these live, Hassan.
Yeah, these live things are weird, right? We're here, man. You know, we're not going anywhere. Let's go. Okay, and that guy takes exception with the E. There's the generic exception because it can be anything. It's coming from
Mm.
from the outside, right? And then the message here would be, base message, and then not found, completion error occurred. Fix the errors and try again. I do the same thing. I say errors all the time. See? And try again. And then pass that inner exception in there. You should probably name the input parameter inner exception as well. Mm. No, just inner exception. If you rename your input parameter to inner exception, it should be
Oh,
enough.
I see. Yep.
Mm. Cool. Is that line long enough? Is it over 120? Do you know?
109.
19. Good. Control KE and then control period to pull in the header of the file, the copyrights, and then we should be a go. I think Elbic's computer just barfed again.
There's something new.
You still there, son?
Yeah, I'm good.
Sarah Maloff says, "We're with you, Brian. We got you." It's probably one of your folks, isn't it? Elbic, you're gonna take care of the bad request. You're gonna map it to
Sure.
invalid. Mhm. Gregory says the LinkedIn video display. Yeah, it's really neat. They're putting it on the header of my profile. That's amazing. I'd never done that before, so I tried it this morning with or earlier today, not this morning, um um with Christo, and it was freaking amazing.
Oh, it just takes an exception, doesn't it?
It doesn't take no. You have to no it let's see what's happening here. Um just call it inner exception first instead of exception. Just call it inner exception with the E.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. And
So
then
this
just
shouldn't.
do mhm.
Should this be an exception or
No
which one?
exception because that's outer exception that has to localize, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then put base in there and just type in completion dependency.
Yeah, I put this. That's what I was doing wrong.
Mhm. Mhm.
So what? Just the inner exceptions going into
Yeah,
this.
so message, and then you're gonna say completion dependency validation error occurred, fix errors and try again.
Ooh.
Hmm. I never spell it right. Depend, then E after D. Yeah, dependency. Validation error occurred, fix errors and try again. I think occurred is 2 R's and 2 C's. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then pass that inner exception to it. Cool. Control KE. Don't forget to add the scope for the namespace, Brian, and
Oh
and
yeah, I didn't do that on the previous one.
probably for the previous one too. Yeah, that's right. Elbic, it's almost your turn. You ready? Ready, Freddy? Where do you disappear to? You just go disappear and then you come back. What happened to you?
No, I'm just switching off and on my camera.
Why?
There's
What are you doing?
people are around me, so
People are going behind you? Okay.
yeah.
Are you at work? You're hanging out with your friends at work?
Yeah, I'm at home, so working from home
You're
because it's on
remoting
sometimes.
in?
Yes.
Uh, Cool.
Okay, now we need to fix the rest of this test.
Yeah.
External.
Hmm.
So this should be this one.
Good. As a variable. Is it just me or the cursor for Brian is kind of flickering across the street, the
For
screen?
me as well. So I don't understand why.
Hmm.
I think it's something with StreamYard. Brian, unshare screen and reshare. Something is weird is happening with the cursor. Sarah Malov says I thought I was the only one making these typos because I'm French. No, nobody. We're all are. Trust me.
Yes.
Trust me. All the time too. Trust me. Visual Studio team didn't add in this spelling check for funsies. It happens way too often. In
I
fact,
live by
actually, if you just search GitHub for spelling errors, the results will be daunting, so it's not just you, my friend. It's good. I don't know what time is it in France. Florian, correct me if I'm wrong, but bonjour or something. How do you say good evening in France? François.
How does that look? Why have we got a green line under that?
Public method should. Yeah, you forgot to put fact. Okay. Scroll down. Let's see. So
Just
completion, dependency, validation, exception, and then, yep, it still says completion dependency exception. You probably want to switch that to completion dependency validation exception. Line 88 and
yep.
89. Oh, Bonaceri or something like that. Actually, I'm from Canada. French Canadian. Oh, okay.
Nice.
Gotcha. For me too, the cursor is blinking. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, Said. I don't know what's happening.
I noticed the same with Elbeck yesterday, but I
Yeah.
didn't say anything. Yeah.
It's StreamYard. StreamYard is broken. You know what this remind me of, Brian? Do you remember back at Windows 98 when, the computer runs out of memory, so the mouse just keeps repeating itself on the screen. So you
Mm-hmm.
see like and you start drawing shapes with it because there's no memory. Okay, hang on, hang on. Is it filling for the right reasons?
Oh,
Let's see. So if you scroll down, it says I expected you to give me dependency validation, but I got that. Good. Let's go. Fantabulous. Let's do it. Okay, Elbic, you're it. Get in the ring, son.
Yeah. Share screen.
Get in there and show us what you were made out of.
All
Mostly, for
right.
me, it's mostly coffee and tea and dates.
I'm hitting the cold water today. It's stinking hot here today.
hmm It's all right, man.
Can you see my screen well? So for
I,
the people with their phones.
yeah, we can see your screen.
All right. So when I take this exception, I run every test, not just the one that is new. And then I looked at this, error message. So it should be completion dependency validation exception, but it's throwing exception not found. Okay, not found exception. So some folks don't pay attention to this message um, part of the test, so they try and wander around what to do. So it's very good hint just to look at this. So is this the one? Yeah.
That's the one.
Mhm. So I copy, paste, Control C this, and just go to Control 11, Control F12, and F12 for this. And I say catch.
It's really interesting, the indentation in Elbic's Visual Studio. Have you noticed, Brian? Like his indentations, it's still 4, but on his screen it looks different.
He's using a weird font, I think. Is it?
Is he? It's still Consolus or something like that, isn't it?
I keep smiling when I remember someone saying it looks like Word document.
That was yesterday or the day
Yeah,
before.
yeah,
It's like
yes.
you're typing in a Word document.
All right. So, and it's the validation exception,
Mm,
and we wrap this up. But
mm.
what would be the exposure layer of this library? So I'm very interested in that. Is it gonna be a simple class?
Yeah, it'll be a public validation issues, dependency issues, server issues, all kinds of different. Take a break after the new, before the new, because it's way too long.
All
Okay,
right.
run the test.
Good.
Good. So what you're gonna do, my friend, is the invalid the invalid completion when we receive an HTTP response bad request
Mm-hmm.
exception. We
Mm-hmm.
need to turn that into an invalid completion and then pass it as a dependency validation exception.
All right.
Have fun.
All right. Control Shift A just to create a new model inside this folder.
Mm.
Invalid.
Elbic, you should have a look here,
Actually,
brother. Look where
exception.
font is weird. So Rahman Ahmed said, can we have a recording after the session? Yeah, once the session is over, you can find the recording on this LinkedIn page, on YouTube, Twitter, just whatever it is being streamed, you'll find the recording there. Sarah Malov says, oh, he's just zoomed in. I don't think so. I don't think so. His font is just different.
To do dependency validation, right?
Mm-hmm. Exception. If on prompt, if bad request occurs. And
You spelled prompt wrong.
prompt.
From
Prompt.
first.
What's the? Yeah,
So zoom out just one bit, so you don't have to keep going back and forth like that.
you got a capital I in bad. Sorry, Albert,
Yeah.
to be pedantic.
Please
All
be
right, that's it.
pedantic. Please do. That's how we produce the best code. Bad is B-A, A uppercase. That's what Brian was just saying.
Oh, curse.
It occurs
Async.
async. Uh-huh.
All right. So given when then
Mm-hmm.
our main exception is HTTP bad request response bad request exception, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is this the one?
Mm-hmm.
Let me work this out.
Okay.
And is it gonna be invalid completion exception?
Yep. You're gonna run into a tiny bit of a change there, but no. Have fun. This should error out on you, right? Why? So why is it erroring out?
Probably because let me guess. So it has a constructor with exception that has X at the beginning. We need to create a new constructor
It
that
doesn't. It doesn't have
replaces.
a constructor with inner input.
Oh, yeah.
So we
So
need
we
an
should
override, overload.
public invalid completion exception with exception,
Mm-hmm.
and it should have. Oh, let me give it a name.
Mm-hmm.
Period
Mm-hmm.
message
Same
saying
message.
what should.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Same
All
message.
right.
Invalid completion error occurred. Fix the errors and try again. Now, the beauty of RESTful Sense is that it will take whatever is in there and map it for you. So when you take that as inner, it kind of processes that for you. Um, however, um, do we want, what was the thing that we did to make sure that this works the way it's expected? Keep going. I'm with you. I'm just looking up
All
something.
right. All right.
Wow.
All right. So
Mm-hmm.
let's make our, what was it, storage broker.
Mm-hmm.
For any completion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just throw. All right. Why it's not happy about it?
Because you need to submit external completion request, right?
Oh, right. Yeah. External completion request.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Fix your
And let's see.
indentations. Push that throws to the next line and push a tab out after that.
All right.
One tap. Good. The rest of it is pretty much like the one above it. You know, you could
Yeah. Let
just
me.
pick up. Mm,
An actual
mm,
should be equivalent to expected.
mm.
I think, yeah, it's expected here.
Good.
And we verify that OpenAPI. We're verifying it times once. Yes.
Mm.
Here is a test.
Fix your indentations at the bottom.
Oh, what if
Okay.
I move this one by like this?
No,
No?
it's a different statement. Mm.
I have errors. The name sum doesn't.
Yeah, you
Oh,
didn't create a completion request, completion first, right? Hmm.
no.
Here we go. Great. Is it
Uh,
failing for all the right reasons? Yeah, Elbic's cursor is starting to freak out as well. I see.
I'm
All right.
pushing it. You can take it.
Is it my turn? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Great. Fantastic. I love it. Let's do this. So we just need to handle these exceptions. I think there's a couple more left. We want to handle also the URL not found. That's HTTP response URL not found. And then the generic one, which is everything else. Brian, unless you can think of something off the top that we may have forgotten. And just like Elbic was just saying, you want to make sure you run all the tests because you don't know. Sometimes an existing implementation could break other tests, and you don't know that. So you want to run all the tests. And if someone tells you, oh, well, the tests take a long time to run, then that's another problem that you need to solve because your tests are supposed to be like I remember some projects where I wrote about 4,000 tests and they all execute within 60 seconds. So you should be comfortable with something like that. So anyway, so this is the one failing for all the right reasons. I see here that, hey, I expected you to give me dependency validation, but I got bad request. Let's go to prompt completion in here. I'm going to go into the implementation. I'm going to go ahead and say catch HTTP response bad request exception, right? So that's that guy right here. And then control U will lowercase that first one for you. And then you can go here and say invalid completion exception. That takes care of that, and then throws new completion dependency validation exception, which will take that invalid completion exception over there. So if I run this like this, that should do the trick for me. There you go. Let me clean that up a little bit. These guys are too long. There you go. And then, yeah, so you don't want your method to have a Billy outside of that. So here's that guy here. Cool. Pass. The next one is to be able to go and say, I want I want to make sure that, I also handle the URL not found exception. Something very similar to this guy. But the only difference here is that it's HTTP response URL not found exception. And you won't find that in any RESTful API library out there at all for .NET, right? It's just going to give you not found until you deal with it. This library here distinguishes truly between the URL itself. We can't find the URL versus trying to find the link itself. So should throw dependency validation exception prompt if URL not found.
So we are saying here dependency exception instead of dependency validation.
Yeah, that's right. Right. So this here will be, so there's some changes here, right? So this here will be like this. Take this guy and make it like this. Do this. This will be bad configuration. Invalid configuration completion exception. Okay, and then we want to take this guy here. So that's the configuration. We're basically saying the configuration is broken. And then this will be a dependency exception. The dependency saying, hey, I don't know this URL that you're talking about. And then I'm gonna go and create that exception here. So here's that exception right here. And then here's some copyrights. Here is the exception. CTOR, take in the big exception, error exception that's coming from the outside world. Here's a base, here's a message, invalid, configuration error occurred, contact support, or fix errors and try again. Here you go. And then Control KE, this is all done. And then let's go back here and invalid configuration, expected completion dependency, validation. I don't need that. And then dependency exception. There you go. And also dependency exception in here. And the same thing goes here. Okay, so we're saying if it throws URL not found, we say invalid configuration. We have the details inside, and then invalid configuration will be handled or wrapped up in an outer exception. And this guy here will basically say, you know, the rest of this is just all good and dandy. So let's write this. Let's run this. Here we go. It's saying, hey, I threw URL not found. I expected completion dependency exception. Brian, are you ready? It's your turn. You wanna go? Fail. Let's go. There's Parker. Let's go to town.
Did Paul attend 3 sessions just yesterday?
Yep, I was just talking to Brian about that. He actually did. He did. He did too.
Wow.
He did. Look, if this guy is here in Redmond, Washington, he'd probably just be all day sitting here in my room, just all day. You know, I'd be like, you don't live here. So, so I don't know, man. Okay, Parker, what you got? Oh, you're on mute.
I'm curious why we got a red line here.
Oh, that's just, you know, that's just Visual Studio messing with you.
Yeah.
You built okay, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, don't listen to it. It's a clown. It's clowning. You know, if you unload and reload the project, they might just go away. I know this can be really annoying. I know how you feel.
So what are we catching? A
HTTP response URL not found exception.
Yep.
Elbic, we might need to chronologically order these exceptions because URL not found would happen at the very top. URL not found, unauthorized, entity not found, and then invalid. I think that's the proper order of things.
I'll just create an issue for the community to just contribute.
Sounds like a plan.
It's a dependency exception, isn't it?
Yes. So first of all, you're gonna say invalid configuration completion exception, right? Mhm. And then, yep. Yep.
And I just had a question regarding this issue infra initialize acceptance test project. Should
Mm.
we close it since we have this project already?
Oh, initialize what? What was it? Initialize what?
Acceptance test project.
Yeah, close that and create one that's called initialize integrations test.
Oh, all right.
I might have misspelled that, or I don't know. I don't know why it didn't close. It should. You can put in there the PR that actually took care of that issue.
So it's a completion dependency exception?
That's correct.
Yep.
Okay, let's do it.
So is end-to-end test project and integration test the same?
Yes and no. So there's end-to-end with mock and there's end-to-end without mock, right?
Oh,
End-to-end with mock, which is internal, that's acceptance.
okay.
And end-to-end without mock, That's integration.
Oh, I see.
We'll do both. Gonna be fun.
Right. So I'll attach the session for Sophie where you have initialized end-to-end tests. So
Right.
I'll attach that video to a new issue.
Sounds good. We already did the end-to-end, and the one in Sophie project, I think the one in the Sophie project is for ASP.NET. This is a library. The project
Mm,
is kind of different.
okay.
Okay,
Okay.
What do we need to catch?
so Brian, the next one for us here would be the big one, the generic server one, which is HTTP response exception. That's it. So copy that test that you're looking at, and
I was
instead of
just,
Mm,
I'm sorry, if in the private chat I sent you the requests,
I saw.
yeah,
Oh wait, there is one in there that's
forbidden.
uh there is forbidden,
And too many requests.
and then there is you don't have permission. Forbidden is different from unauthorized, right?
Mm. Unauthorized means you don't have access to the server. Forbidden means you're accessing a resource that you don't have privileges for.
How did we handle unauthorized? We said it's unauthorized, right? Um, we should handle forbidden, and we should say what would be the localized error for forbidden? Should we just say unauthorized as well?
That's an interesting question, that one, because it depends on how much you want to leak. Sometimes you want to inform the user that they just need to go and request more rights. Sometimes you just don't want to tell the user anything because they might be hacking.
Right. So I think it's okay if we decide, because if it was an authentication exception, that's one thing, but unauthorized, meaning that you don't have access to that particular resource, right? I think it's okay. All you have to do is just switch. Let me write the test for forbidden. Do you want to do too many requests and localize it as excessive, like that local exception will be called excessive call completion exception. And then Sir Malov says, are you guys working during the day or during this together at night? Well, there is no day or night here. Like Elbek is in Uzbekistan. It's 11:13 a.m. for him. And then for Brian, it's the afternoon. Is it 4 o'clock over there, Brian?
5:13 p.m. on Friday.
5:30 p.m. on a Friday, so he's living in the future. And for me, I'm exactly 12 hours across the planet from Elbek, so it's 11:13 p.m. in here. So what is day and night? I don't know. There's no day and night here.
There's
It's
there's always one of us very tired, and then other one somebody else is really alert.
Usually Paul. Paul warned me. I'm so tired. I didn't sleep. It's like, oh, okay, Paul, let's write some code. So, yeah, the standard community is where the sun never sets.
We're basically copying this test, weren't we?
Yeah, except that you need a new localized exception called excessive
Yeah. So
call completion exception.
I'm just going to steal this one and do it
By all
again.
means. Would excessive call be considered dependency or dependency validation? I'd say validation because it's the user's fault that they made too many requests. Just a thought.
Excessive. Double C is C in there. Isn't it? Excessive queries, or what do you want to call it?
Excessive call completion exception.
So
No, in the test name, you'll just say if too many requests occurs.
yeah,
Should throw dependency validation exception on prompt if too many requests error occurred. I hope that fits into 120 characters.
too many.
Requests.
Sorry. Yeah, I get prompts and requests in my head.
If too many requests occurs. Mhm. Okay. So RESTful sense should have that. So HT response too many requests exception.
Too many response. Yeah,
Too many requests, right?
yeah.
No, it shouldn't be that. Too many requests. HTTP response too many requests exception. No, no, just take all that out. HTTP response. Yep, there you go. That's the one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're going to call this excessive.
Oh yeah, Sarah Malov says too many in the test name. Brian, it's another O. Too many. T-O-O. No, no, no. Go back. Revert that at the top in the test name. I don't know how to read that name, Elvic, but hello back to you. Can you read the name? How do you
Is
read
that
it?
right? Or should it be just single TO? It looks wrong.
Should throw dependency validation exception on prompt if too many requests occurred. Async. Yeah, that's correct.
Should this be?
No,
Uh,
two, like too many.
Yeah, yep. That's me.
Forget to change the variable name though.
Excessive.
Excessive call completion exception.
Having a bad day.
It's all right. You're fine. Excessive call. Yeah, and we don't have that yet, so that's okay. But
Yep.
line 191, we want to change the variable name to match the type, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Paul already crashed. He was like out. You know, I bet you he's snoring right now, just completely out. You know, we were competing. He was telling me, "Oh, look, you know, coffee just appeared on my desk." I was like, "I already have my tea." You know, nice try. You know, what are you showing off for? But yeah, I digress. So, okay, excessive call completion, right? Dependency validation exception.
Whoops.
Perfect. And yeah, the rest should be just fixing variable names and making sure.
Mm-hmm.
No, that guy should throw the HTTP response too many request exception. Nope. Should
No.
throw the variable in line 191.
Yeah, I get you.
Okay. So line 210, it should say actual completion dependency exception.
It should be a completion dependency
Dependency
validate.
validate. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's correct.
yeah.
Yeah. Coffee makes your mind think it has energy, but it doesn't provide you with more energy. That's true. I don't drink coffee. Tea, though, I do drink a lot of tea. Green tea, mint leaves, all kinds of tea. What's the most popular tea in Australia, Brian?
Oh, I don't know. My favourite is Earl Grey, an English breakfast.
I like Earl Grey. I was telling someone once, they're from England. I was telling them, hey, do you guys have Lipton over there? He said, yeah, we don't drink that trash over here. He got offended. He got offended. It's ridiculous.
So is that right? Yeah, that doesn't seem right.
Yeah, this is all right. You just actual completion dependency validation, expected completion dependency validation. You want to change the variable name on the expected. Expected completion dependency validation.
Yeah.
hmm Okay, let's run it. Oh, we still didn't create that excessive call completion exception. Let's do that.
Had it there and I missed it.
Yes, sir. There we go. And this guy should take an inner exception.
Is it an exception?
With the
Yeah.
E, yep,
Yeah.
exception, because it's coming from the outside. And
Mm.
right, you got your base, you got your excessive call, error occurred. This time you want to say limit your calls, not fix. Nope, just limit your calls. That's it. That's it.
Come through.
Cool. Control KE. Don't forget the scope for the namespace. Elbic, you're up. In a minute.
Yeah, when I get there. Gee.
Cool. So technically your test should be okay now. Let's see. Yeah. There we go. Yep. And is it failing for the right reasons? Yep. It says, scroll down. It says, I expect you to give me that. And I got 2 milligrams. Perfect. Ship it. Give it to Mr. Elbic. Send it up all the way across the ocean. Do it.
And time.
And time.
Back in
Literally.
time.
Literally, you're sending it back in time, Brian. What the heck? You're literally sending code. Like, it's amazing. Like, can you believe? Do you know how confused people would be if the commit history kept the local time instead of the UTC time? People would be very confused. People would say, that's not test-driven development. They wrote the implementation before the actual test. I have the evidence right here. TDD against time. It's ridiculous. Seriously, we should start with me coming from North America, and then it goes all the way to Asia for Elbic, and then it goes all the way to Australia, and then makes another spin. And if Paul is here, it'd go from North America, Europe, Asia, Australia, and roll again. It's ridiculous. Malov says, "Dang, you are coding in the multiverse in different times across the ocean. Mind blowing. It is really mind blowing. Once you figure out how you do pair programming online, the possibilities here are endless. Like, if we have a friend astronaut sitting in a space station, they may as well be pairing with us, and God knows what time zone that would be. Like, I don't even want to try to know what would the time zone be over there. Actually, now I'm curious, like how do people outer space
They
calculate time?
they orbit the Earth every 16 minutes, don't they?
Oh my God. Every 60 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. So it says here astronaut measure time in space in the same way that we do on Earth by using a clock. Yeah, but what time zone? Like what like okay, what's the time zone in space?
They'd be using
Oh,
their
it,
launch. Yeah.
oh, they just do UTC, Coordinated Universal Time. So it's just UTC. Cool.
You want me to write a service exception?
No, no, we still have one. We need an exception for um the HTTP response exception. That's the generic one. And we're
Okay.
gonna translate that as a dependency exception. Mm. You
And
could just
yeah,
copy one of the tests that have dependency exception in it and
uh,
replace the incoming exception with just HTTP response. That's it.
oh yeah, oh yeah. Uh,
Mhm.
so Control Shift A Alt and right button,
Yeah.
and it selects one word. It's pretty cool. So here, if HTTP error occurs, right?
hmm
Yes. Control dot rename. And what would be the
In here
type?
you will in here you will say failed server completion exception.
Right.
Remember how we say failed storage student
Storage.
exception?
Yeah.
Pretty much the same idea. So we finish this test, I finish another one, and then Brian, you're gonna write the service exception, and we're done. Fantabulous, isn't it?
Let's see.
That's it.
Yeah. Let me
Now you
create
just need
this.
to create that model, huh?
Or
Uh-huh.
and for the message, we say failed server completion occurred. Contact support, maybe.
Filter, yeah, contact support. Yeah, at this point, we don't know what's going on, so contact support. Mm.
And we give in our exception here. All right.
Mm,
Let's run the test.
let's do it.
All right, expected this one, and we have HTTP response exception.
Bring it all back to me. Let's go to town.
Send it over to the past.
Send it to the past. Brian, do they teach in Australia this story, Journey to the Center of the Earth?
Yeah, we've
Yeah. What about you, Elbik? Do they teach that in Uzbekistan? Journey to the...
No,
No?
I have no idea what are you talking about. No.
It's a very interesting story. It's a very, very interesting story. You know, it's weird. Brian, correct me if I'm wrong. They go into the bottom of the earth, to the core of the earth, and then they find mammoth and you know, kind of you know, extinct, you know,
Yeah,
creatures.
prehistoric
Wow.
sort of world. Yeah, there's a couple of
Elbik,
different versions now.
Elbik, you should totally read that story. It's sci-fi kind of crazy stuff, but it kind of gets you wondering, you know. And then they see like you know, one of the um, ancient original man on Earth. He doesn't try to bother them, you know. He's like he doesn't know if they're hostile or something like that. Man, I haven't. The last time I read this was over 25 years ago. I don't. I barely remember, but I remember reading it in multiple languages too. Malov says when I was working at a research center in Quebec, I was eating at lunch with scientists, and we were always talking about crazy stuff. Yeah, I like to talk about crazy stuff. Hmm. Okay, why are you giving me hard tests, dude? Uh, what do I do here? So let's go here and handle this exception, and let's do this catch. That's the generic one, HTTP response exception. HTTP response exception, and this will be failed server completion exception. Wow, that's really small. Hold on. Exception, new failed server completion exception, which will take that HTTP response exception and then throw new completion dependency exception with failed server like that. So the people that will be debugging this, they will be having a blast because, you know, the exceptions are very clear. It's telling them exactly what's happening. What message did you put in there, by the way? Let's see here. Failed server completion error occurred. Contact support. That's right. You did actually ask me the question. What should I do? What message should I put in there? I guess my brain is multi-threaded now. I don't know. I'm talking to people from the future. Anyways. I'm literally talking to people from the future, dude. That's how bad it got. Okay. All right. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just modify something in here. Brian, we did handle the exception of um, unauthorized. I'm gonna turn this into a theory, right? And I'm gonna pass in there member data, right? And I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna say, you know, unauthorization exceptions, right? So
Name
which,
off.
huh?
Name off as well.
Yeah, name off. That's right. That's right. Correct. Thanks. Right. Name of that. And then what we want here, I want HTTP response exception, which is the, you know, the unauthorization exception, right? So that will be the one replacing, you know, all the errors that come from here. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it in here, and I'm going to take this one out, which means that this guy needs to be going in here. Okay. So now I need to go build that method, right? So I'm going to copy that name, unauthorized. There you go. And then I'm going to go into the root and I'm going to create theory data. And what theory data does, it helps you kind of write multiple instances of the same test. So public static theory data. right? And this is the method name. And I'm basically just going here and returning a list. So return new theory data, right, of HTTP response exception, right? And I'm basically passing here a list of things. So what I'm passing here is new, unauthorized, HTTP response unauthorized exception, and also new HTTP response forbidden exception. We will consider them this way. Why is this guy tripping? Is it supposed to be this way? Oh, you're not kidding. It's supposed to be this way. Okay, cool. Let's go down here. Here's unauthorization exception. And then this also will be like that. And Brian, all you gotta do is just, I mean, it's pretty much the same. I basically wrote another test in here, but this will, the implementation of this will be literally just handling it the same way you handled the, see, so one passing, one failing, and that's the beauty with the theory data because it'll show you a couple of these, right? And then I'm gonna go here and say,
So
here's
it basically ran that test with the two different sets of data.
exactly,
Yep.
exactly. Go for it, Brian Parker. Go to town. After that, we have one more test, and we're done. The foundation service is done.
So this one, is it an extension of the existing one, and we need to use a pattern? No.
So whatever you said, HTTP response unauthorized at the top, it was one of the very first tests that we wrote.
Yep.
Just copy another block right underneath that.
Yep.
And yeah, and then it should be just unauthorized. Sorry, forbidden.
There we are. Looking
Yep.
for you.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep. We should probably fix the variable name to have the A uppercase.
Yep. Just
Always says live sessions are good. Good night, Malof. A little late in Canada. And then live sessions are good. Thanks. Thanks always. I appreciate it. Okay.
So what's this one?
This is dependency and prompt. What's it? What's the error? Scroll down. It says I expected you to give me a dependency exception, but I got HTTP response. You got the latest, right, from me, right? You should. Let me run all the tests on my side. Yeah. What happened? Should throw dependency exception response error. That shouldn't, maybe go back to the code, Ryan, the exceptions.
Yep.
So HTTP response, you added forbidden, and then if you scroll all the way down, keep going. Yeah, where's the code that I pushed? Can you do another poll? So mark the tests that you just made pass as pass, and do another poll. Why didn't push my code? That's rude.
I did a, yeah, you saw me do the pull, just as you, yeah.
Just do another. You know, we don't know.
So do you want me to do the commit first, or?
Yeah, for the passing test.
Yeah. What was the name of the test again? This one?
Yeah, let's go.
I guess
Cool.
this.
Sorry.
Just do another pull, see what happens.
Yeah, I'll just
Because
do
I
it.
see it here in my code.
I'm going to commit this just locally. Then I'll do a fetch.
Mm.
2.
There you go. Do you have any conflicts? Nope. Merge commit created. Good. Now run everything. Let's see. I don't know how that happened. That's weird. Cool.
Good.
So what's the last one? We need to handle the service exception. So Brian, create a new model, call it failed completion service exception. And then another model, call it completion service exception. So 2 of these. So failed completion service exception. Yep, that's one. And then the other one is completion service exception. Good. And both of them will have contact support because there's nothing the user can do about this. Just make sure that the completion service exception, its inner is exception with the X, the inner of it, the inner exception, and the failed completion service exception, the inner exception of it is E exception with the E. And don't forget the scopes. The last test right there, and then we're wrapping up this foundation service. We could even test it, We'll see.
Mm. So,
Mm. Yep, completion service error occurred, contact support. Cool. And then pass in an E exception to this one as an inner exception with the X.
yep.
What's XC data?
I don't know. I liked it. Why?
Exception. XE.
XE. I don't know what. Yep, there we go. Kept on trying to put that C in there, didn't I?
Make coffee for this man. He's out of it. Control KE. Clean up that stuff. Let's create the other one. Ryan is wondering like, why did I do this?
Yeah.
Why did I join this nonsense?
Du-
I'm here.
du- du-
Go ahead.
Duped again.
I'm sitting here in Australia where it's sunny and nice. It's 40 something degrees. Why am I listening to this lunatic there in the no sun land, also known as Seattle?
You said this one was a
Yes, correct.
yeah.
Yep. It's a bit
Yeah.
harder to read. Kindly zoom, please. Give it a zoom, please, Brian. Yep, thank you.
How's that? Can we see now? Yep.
Yeah. How about now, Waze? Can you see it now? We can only zoom so far on your Nokia, 910, brother. You're gonna need to kind of upgrade your phone. People are doing 4K now. All right, this one will be yeah, failed completion service error occurred, contact support. Yep, give me the inner exception, and we should be good to go. Well, we need a test, but
Yeah. $97, we're good.
good. All right, let's go write a test then. So you could take one of these dependency exception tests and just change every dependency to service. And then instead of HTTP response, you're just gonna change it to exception. And you're just gonna create another inner one, which is failed service. Take that last one. That last one is good, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
Away says it's clear now. Thanks.
Much better.
Much better. Should throw service exception on prompt if server or if service error occurs. Perfect. Yeah, let's do it. So that HTTP response, that's just gonna be a service exception. And in here, you're just gonna type in exception. That guy will just be exception. With the E.
Oh, really?
Because that's the generic one. We don't know where it's coming from, right?
Mm-hmm.
Put that one on the same line and take line the empty line in 2068. Take that empty line out. Yep. And then that will be failed completion service exception. Failed completion service exception. Yep. Don't forget to change the type.
It should be a service exception.
Hmm.
Is that right? Yep.
No. Should be the same name as the variable, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. And then this should be completion, expected completion service exceptions instead of dependency. Okay. Here we go. And that should take, yep, failed completion service exception. And then you're really throwing the service exception in here.
This one.
No, the one above it.
Yeah.
Okay. The rest, anywhere you see dependency should be a service. And this one that says actual completion exception should say actual completion service exception. Line 285. Right. Okay. I think that's good enough. That's right. Let's see. Nice. Is it the right error? Says I expected you to give me a service and you give me a generic. Yep. Give it over to Elbic.
Oops, I did the wrong thing. Closed the wrong window.
Josan says, we are proud to contribute to your open source too, and we are grateful, Brother Elbic. Okay. Cool. Let's go, Elbic. Let's finish this one. Mhm. This should be the final one. We did the validation, we did the exception handling, we did, dependency validations. Um, we will need to kind of just as a code drop for the community to order the exceptions handling and the testing to match, the chronological structure. So you start with, URL not found, and then unauthorized, and then forbidden, and then under that you start with the dependency validation exceptions, and then the dependency exceptions, and then the service exceptions. That kind of covers up, that whole range of services. Okay. Here we go.
Yeah, the issue is created already, so
Good. Good.
should be
Thank you.
fine.
Good.
Service.
Filled completion. So yeah, filled. Yep. Completion service exception. Good. Now run this guy and let's see.
Do you have still delete me? Yeah, we need to delete that.
Yeah, we should make that a code drop as well.
All right.
Like let someone else take care.
Oh, okay. Okay. Good. Let me register.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, where do we register?
Register what?
The service.
You need to go back to the first session of the second session. Don't worry about registering yet. There's still a
All right.
task for this. That'll be a part of the client. Okay.
Okay.
But really go back to the first session. There's an interesting piece in there that I think you'll find interesting.
Yeah. So I'm done
Okay.
on my side. Pushed everything. Just take it.
Okay. So let's create a pull request. We got to the bottom of it. Here is a web page. And here is a window. And here is a pull request. So now this prompt completion is in good shape. These are all the contribution that went into it. It's a lot of work. And then we can say ready for review here. And so these are all the contributions from the community. That's Parker, Kailu, myself, all the way up here. You can see the red, green as we go. I'm just gonna wait for the build just to make sure everything is in good shape. And then we're gonna merge it up. So once that gets merged, then our next session will be to build a client, right? And just so you guys understand what I expect the client to look like, well, it's just building. What this client is going to look like, it's going to be something like this. We need to go and say there is var OpenAI. Let me zoom in a little bit just so people see what I'm talking about. So it'll be var OpenAI equal new OpenAI like this, right? And I expect people to pass in configurations in here. So this is configs, right? And they need to pass in new OpenAI configurations, right? We did talk about those for a bit. And these configurations will look something like this. So basically want them to go and say, well, in my configuration, here's my API key. I also have the organization. And optionally, both of these are optional. So this guy here is optional. And then in here, we also want to add in the API URL. This is also optional. Okay. Once that's done, you initialize. Now I want to go here and say OpenAI dot completions dot, because there will be OpenAI dot, right, chats dot, and OpenAI dot images dot. Okay, so this will be dot completions. Now you're accessing that client internally, and then you can say prompt completion, and you pass in here your completion model. Of course, this will be a prompt completion async. Okay, so this is a little bit interesting because you already have a property, but it has another property in it. You have a variable, but you have a property inside of that variable, and that property identifies with this completion service. Sorry, with the completion client that we talked about.
All right. It looks like so we say db set dot, right? So repository dot db set and then something,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's
Mm-hmm.
similar to this. Okay.
Right. So high level then, what that basically means is that high level, our architecture here will be, okay, you had the OpenAI broker. We already built that. And then on top of that, we have completion service. Right? Great. We need to build something here called completion client. Completions client. That's your exposure. And then you're going to have many, many of these. Like you're going to have these and these and these, right? So each one of these has, they're all talking to OpenAI broker actually. So this guy will go away. And you're going to bring that guy right here in the middle, right? And your completion service will basically, you're going to have another one in here. So all of these are talking to OpenAI broker, right? Now here where it gets interesting. This will be, let's say for instance, chat service. So this will be the chats client, right? And then in here, this will be the, the images client. And this here is the image service. There will be voice, there will be whatever. Back again, you come back up to this guy, which is called just OpenAI client. And this OpenAI client is the one that has this registration of services, that part that you were just asking about. That's the equivalent of an entry point to the service. And that guy is the guy. So all of these are exposure of layers. This is your business logic, and this is your dependency. That's your tri nature of things. And this will scale tremendously because you're going to have all these different services all down in here. And then once that's done, we can start shifting, direction. Now we have a library. Now we need to go and build actual projects that leverages OpenAI, right? Can we help it? Can we build something for sales? Can we build something for accounting? Can we build something for, whatever, for programming, whatever is out there? Okay? That the possibilities there are endless, right? So anything that's sitting on this side is your customer. Anything that's sitting on this side is OpenAI server. And then a bigger plan is to go and say, okay, this whole component itself is the OpenAI provider, but there is Google Bard, there is Meta's Llama, there is Microsoft Azure provider. So we need to take all of these folks and create SPAL for all of them. So you're going to have all of these folks, they have their own SPAL. And SPAL sits on top of that. So SPAL is sitting up on top here. And that's how you're allowing enterprise systems to work through SPAL and switch the provider without having to change anything in the code. Bigger plan to go into that direction. What are we getting out of this? Well, first of all, we're learning about OpenAI, about all these APIs. We're learning a lot about that. Second of all, we are building something for ourselves first. Like someone was talking this morning about community adaptation, right? I'm talking about building a tool that I can use and trust to build something bigger on top of it, right? The only difference is that I'm building my tool and I'm giving it to the rest of the world, with the community, for the community, by the community, right? So there's that part. And then lastly, if you're not staying up to date with OpenAI and getting up to speed with these things, you're gonna go extinct. You can kiss your engineering skills goodbye, because whatever you can do today, there is a toaster out there that will be able to make it. Okay, so this is my way of telling the engineering community, get off your asses and start learning something. Okay. Okay, so this is complete in here, and that basically our foundation service, my friends. So what's left, right? We need to write a client. So let's go back to the project section of this, and we need to write. So in here, so this is done, and Brian already did the research for this, so this is also done. What I need here now is exposers, clients. Come on, clients, completions, client. So that's one priority. That's now in progress. And then the other one is clients, outer client or OpenAI client. And once we're done with the two of these, we're done, right? So let me create an issue for this one. We could actually wrap this one before even the weekend. We'll see. Because creating the client is going to be really, really, really easy because there's no unit testing in it. But once the client is done, we need to go build an acceptance test for it. And that's where it gets very, very interesting. But we won't be able to write an acceptance test unless we finish also the OpenAI client. Okay, so the next item here is acceptance, OpenAI client, completions client. That's one. And then the second one is integrations. That's completions client. That's the one where you actually are passing the key and you're testing things out, right? So that's our sprint right here. And this one as well. Okay, so let's start this one tomorrow. This one should be very quick. Like that. Once you're done with the foundation service, you've done the hardest part. Brokers are easy, clients are easy. Foundation service is where you're doing all the thinking, right? And trying to kind of bring things together. We're basically building a very standardized solid layer on top of an API that may or may not be standardized. And, we're moving on from there. Okay, friends, thank you all so very much for your patience. We're at 2 hours, and I know this is a lot of hard work that's going into this and a lot of thinking and community engagement, but that's why software engineering is fun. So stay tuned with us for the community everywhere on every social media channel out there, and I'll see you again at the same time 2 hours from now tomorrow. Thank you all so very much. Take care. Thank you, Elvick. Thank you, Brian. Take care.